One way is that, of course, per finished hour, right? So maybe a chapter is 30 minutes edited, but it takes you an hour to record it. But that's not the finished work yet. The finished hour is after the editing, after the exporting. A lot of people find that a finished hour takes them about 4 hours to achieve. That's like prep, recording, editing, and exporting. You know, about 4 to 1, sometimes 5 to 1, like it is quite daunting. The other way, which I exclusively do now because F that crap, is I do punch and roll. And that sounds like a cool, like, I don't know, martial art thing. But punch and roll is just, you press record, you record the thing, you make sure that they've got all that they'll need, then you stop the recording and you send them the file and you say good day. And that has been extremely liberating because I get really overwhelmed by the aspect of, okay, it's a 10-hour book, I'm gonna have to put 40 hours into this book to make it a finished product. I shut down, like it's just too overwhelming. So for me, that's one way that if you are working in the medium, you can always check with your client or editor if they'd be willing to do punch and roll. They'll often pay you less because obviously there's less money on the table, but usually it's like, we're only gonna pay you $150 an hour instead of $250. You're like, for 1/4 of the work? Yeah, no, that's fine, let's get to work. But in terms of like just breaking up, if you have like a scene, like, you know, if you're doing like a video game, right? You've got like a couple of pages of dialogue for a cutscene. I think it always benefits the actor to go through the copy and look for clues. Like we look for the 5 W's, and if that's new to anyone, it's the who, what, when, where, and why. Because if you know some or all of the 5 W's, then that's when you can start, especially if you've got an imagination that likes to participate, you've got a way to imagine this world. Where am I? How far apart are we? What are we doing? What's going on? What can I react to? Because performance is way more about just reacting, not acting. Prep, you know, like when you're doing all of your, you know, the actor prepares, you're trying out multiple ways that this could go, and you're very active in that, you're very cerebral in that. But that is not performance, that's preparation, that's rehearsal. And you should rehearse. You want to see how it could go. But then the difference, of course, is that after you've marked these things out, you know, like I think this is about this is my goal here, this is my intention here, this is when the other person is speaking, and I should not just wait for my turn to speak. What if I hear that voice or read it in my head and I have an expression, I have we call them life sounds. What if I breathe a certain way? What if I have a reaction to that? Well, that reaction is now gold, right? It could really be used in the final product, so you would want to keep that in there. And hopefully, by the time it's time to perform, you've practiced it and tried things out enough that you're going to go with the flow. You're going to see how it goes this time. I'm not a sportsy guy, but I have a couple of sports analogies. One is, you got to surf the wave you're on. You can't pretend that it's the wave you practiced on this morning, right? You can get good at surfing if you keep getting up on waves. And I know in Alberta, we got a lot of surfers here, a lot of waves. But I think the analogy stands that, you know, like you get good at the skills, but you can't dictate the wave. You gotta go and adjust to what's going on this time. And that might mean that it's different than rehearsal. But that also might mean that it's gonna be better than rehearsal because it's gonna feel real. It's gonna feel like it's happening for the first time this time, even though you've rehearsed it 10, 15, 20 times. And that is a skill too. But it's honable. You break down the script, you practice, you try, and then you let go and you go, well, here's the scary part. Let's see how it goes this time. Back in the aisle.
Do you have any specific warm-up routines that you do? Because I generally start off low and croaky.
Like your morning voice is low and croaky?
I remember the scene from, it's not the Wolf of Wall Street, it's the other one, where Matthew McConaughey, that guy, that's the one, thank you.
Right.
He's stuck in his chest, which I'm not going to do in public, but do you have anything specific you do?
I certainly do tongue twisters and breathing exercises to make sure that I'm like warmed up and primed to work. I think, you know, on average, a warm-up session is like 10 minutes. So, you know, I did take some singing lessons as a young adult trying to get into musical theater and things like that. So I still do some like residency work. Some people just hum, and you can hum, you know, can hum into your forehead, you can hum into the bridge of your nose, you can hum into the tip of your nose, like, and you can figure out different areas of resonancy within the head. Resonancy within the chest is a little different, like, because you need to check, you know, so, Barbra Streisand, bitch. But mostly, you know, it's like making sure that your body has been able to breathe deeply a few times. Part of what we do as humans is that when we breathe into the top half of our lungs, you probably know this, you're all scientists, you're all brilliant, the bottom half of your lungs is still pretty much just carbon dioxide, right? Like it doesn't expunge the poison air if you're not replenishing that. So a lot of us just sit with half a tank all the time, and that's kind of how we live. But if you are a person like with a musician or a sports background, you might be diaphragmatically breathing more often than not. But what that's also doing for the brain and the body is they shut up about how you're not doing exactly what they want all the time. The brain, when it's in its kind of near starvation mode, like if we don't breathe well, the brain yells at us a lot, like, you gotta breathe more, bro, breathe. And we're like, but I'm fine. But the reality is that it's only got 50% of what it wants. So those big diaphragmatic breaths not only get rid of the poison gas, but the brain and the muscles start to get just a little chill. And if you do get like a little lightheaded, trust your body, like don't go crazy on it. But if you get a little lightheaded, trust that you're okay. That's probably just the euphoria of your brain being like, I feel so satisfied. I don't know what this is. Like, I'm so used to being anxious and angry at my body all the time. But yeah, if you're getting like fall down dizzy, of course, like make sure you're being safe. But for warm-ups, warm up on what is hard for you. You know, like I've gotten pretty good at some of the tongue twisters I like to do, so they're not as effective anymore, but I'll check with like an articulation exercise. One I like, the girl stood on the balustraded balcony, inexplicably mimicking him hiccuping and amicably welcoming him in. You know, that one just like makes my brain have to work overtime to like get around the corners, and you know, it's kind of nonsensical to a certain degree, but it's like I gotta rev the engine a little bit. And it starts with breath, because I can't fire the pistons without oxygen, and then I make sure that we've got things working. Kind of like the more sports analogies, you got it. Kind of like the baseball player that puts the weights on his bat and gets in the batting cage, and he's got the heavy bat, right? We're doing that like with the over-articulation on purpose to make all of our little teeny tiny articulators work that much harder, so that when we get into the microphone, we can take the weights off and just trust that it's there. But about 10 minutes is what I find is most people's need. I'll get to you in just a moment. I've got one closer here.
So I know you brought up AI, like what's coming.
No, I did.
So how are you gonna feel like voice actors are gonna adapt to deal with like AI being used in media more? Because I mean, I know there's AI for art, there's AI like generating images, there's AI imitating voices. Like, how do you feel like you're gonna adapt to that primarily?
Okay, I might just switch the question a little bit. How would I adapt to AI? I think what AI is trying to do is a very natural human thing, and it's going to get tired very quickly. Like the idea that machines want to replace art, they're like, actually...
I know I'll never be the same. Shook my world so hard again. Wish I washed away my sins. He's a dead man walking, blank stare in his eyes. Should have given up on the ones I trust. Never should have been surprised when they shot him down. Cold blood to the ground.